Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and my lovely NBs. Today we are doing another matchup here. This time it's going to be Olive versus Murlock, which I believe is in Group B. So let's go ahead and dive right on into this, shall we? Let's get it. So Urbane going to be going in the southeast position as the KSR, while Murlock is more so in the western position as the common folk. Now looking at the compositions really quickly, Urbane Olive, of course, being the mole professor that he is, gonna go with the Squall as per usual, and with the Falcon, Skunk, and Boar composition, along with the MGs as the defensive unit. And of course, as I say this, mole professor doing mole professor things, and the mine doing mine things. And with that, Murlock doing a really good job using the mine there to his advantage to go against what Urbane was going to do in this instance. So that's kind of how that goes. Now for Murlock composition, we are seeing the Squall as well. And we're seeing another mole attempt, which obviously that's not going to be happening. So yeah, look at that, Urbane just being the cheesiest of cheese. The cheese is not going to slide pretty easy today. Anywho, going back into the composition that Murlock has, as he does put down a couple of squirrel warrens, will go for Squall. He does have the Ferret as well as the Soul tier 2 on his composition, as well as the Boar Fox, as well as the Mine as well, as we did saw it come into play earlier. We'll see how well this composition really goes. It worked really well for Murlock in his last matchup that I cast when he was going up against Noun Verb. But we'll see how it goes against Urbane, as Urbane did finish top 4 last year, so that's going to be a pretty tall task for Murlock to go up against. But I'm sure this is going to be interesting regardless, as the second mill for both players are going to be coming up. Urbane's already up, as we see, while Murlock is starting to get his down. And Urbane also going for a tier 2 as well to start things off. So hasn't really committed to any farms as of yet, but he is looking like he's going to be taking up more so and saving that mill for later. And he might be looking for going for an attack already because of the fact that he has the moles going. As he will see that the mill here for Murlock has already gotten some economy connected to it. And now we're seeing the possible attack to go in for Urbane. But Urbane really gonna have to go take things slow, trying to make sure that those mines aren't getting played too much. But the Falcons are gonna come in as well as the moles. A second mill comes down, so it looks like he's gonna commit to the battle here, and really kind of using the Falcons as well to go ahead and get rid of some of the mines. So he doesn't have to worry about the mine anymore, it looks like. And now he's gonna commit to this battle, and I could imagine that this could be Urbane's, as he's able to go ahead and take on the defensive really easily, as the Falcons burst is proving to be a little bit too much here. He's looking to possibly get one more, and he does get that second pig. And I'm sure he's going to go ahead and sell everything else, as he does lose the 2 Falcons. And Murlock's aiming to look for a possible counterattack. But I would imagine the defensive units are going to be there to prevent Murlock to do too much damage, right? But it looks like the number game is going to be going onto Murlock's side. I don't think it's going to be enough, but here comes the Falcon. We'll see if the Falcon can do enough to stop this attack, but it looks like Murlock is going to go ahead and retreat. Does take a couple of warrens down before heading back to his home base. And now we're seeing more mines being used here, but Urbane's going to see it. We're going to try and scout and see what else Murlock is cooking, because now that Murlock has a bit of an economy lead, Urbane's gonna have to play a little bit of catch up here, economic wise, or at least try and tech up even more to go for an even more gruesome attack. And it looks like he's going to try to do a little bit of both here, as he is going to try and put down a defensive MG, because he knows he's a little bit behind on economy, and he doesn't really have the resources to be able to kind of protect it as well as he would like to. But he does end up selling the MG once again, probably trying to put it in a more open space spot, because even though there's a backdoor right here, the unit's going to get slowed down immensely unless it does go through cliff abuse, which it is prone to do, since they do have ferrets for Murlock that can come into play. But it looks like Urbane's not going to be worried about it too much, as he is going to go ahead and fully commit to that second mill, as we are past the 5-minute mark. So he's looking to try and go in transition into the tier 2 a little bit. Meanwhile, Murlock going to throw in the tier 3 with the boar. So we are seeing that Urbane's kind of going to run against the clock here, because he doesn't really have that much to go up against this boar. All he has is the 2 falcons, and that's pretty much it. So I would imagine he would go ahead and getting into more squirrels, but I would imagine that maybe he'd go for another falcon here, but no, he's gonna go ahead and try and see if he can stop that boar from coming. But he's playing with fire here because he has to take time in getting rid of all of these mine, and he's not gonna get them all here. So I think that the boar could come out before he's able to finish this up. Because right now, I would say that, yeah, the army value for Murlock has been pretty hefty for a while. The pre-gas is coming down. But now we're seeing that Urbane's looking to probably try and attack this mill, but now he's going to get flanked here by Murlock. But is it going to be enough here? I don't think so, and it's not going to, as Murlock was able to successfully defend against Urbane. So that boar is going to come out, and that's going to be asking for trouble for Urbane, as now Murlock is gonna go ahead and try and dive on and try and finish up this job, because Urbane doesn't really have enough for it, and he is going to tap because he knows that that's not much he can do in that instant. So Murlock will take this game. I believe this is game 1. So Murlock will be up 1-0. Let me take a swig of my water real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and get into game number 2. So, in the southern position, we have Urbane rocking the KSR, while Murlock over on the west side, once again, rocking the common folk. So, Murlock and Urbane are going to be rocking with the same compositions, which, you know, as a caster, I can appreciate a little bit, because especially when you have someone who is as sleazy, cheesy like Urbane wanting to go for that cheeky mo play. But speaking of Murlock deciding to go ahead and go for it on his own, but I don't think it's going to happen to be enough time to get it, because the pig will come out. But nope, the pig was going to make it just in time. And yeah, good response there for Urbane, but now the tempo's going to be more so on Murlock's side due to the fact that he was able to try and strike first with the cheesy mo play. So right now, we're seeing the MG coming out, and it looks like they're going to be around the same time. So yeah, it's a very good counter here to go up against any sort of cheeky mo plays to throw down a defensive Warren. And that's something to really kind of keep an eye on for those who do want to like study and get better like myself. I definitely want to take some pointers into that, like using the mine as a possible way to counter the mole play, or even using the MG. So any defensive unit could really be a huge help to go up against your opponent when they do decide to go to cheese you like that. So now Murlock's gonna be pretty heavy with the eco lead a little bit. Well, no, never mind. He is gonna go try and tech up a little bit more compared to Urbane, who decides to go ahead and fully eco up. Not going to go ahead and get his second tier 1 unit in the squirrels. Meanwhile, Murlock is going to go ahead and just dive into taking up a little bit more. Possibly selling just to go ahead and eco up a little bit faster. Or at least match the amount of eco that Urbane has, which he does do. But so far, it looks like Murlock is just going to go ahead and fully commit into a 16 farm as well as Urbane. So a gentleman 16 in the early goings between the two of them. Now, I will say when it comes to the other mill options outside of these two right here that they took, I don't think any of this is going to come into play because of how linear this map really is. And there's so much water. Like, I don't think people will be willing to look over here unless they're just trying to aim for a ninja base to kind of flank. Or for possibly getting into a base race scenario. I don't think either player really looked at this area here much. Well, I mean, they did a little bit. So yeah, both players are kind of aware of what's going on around in this area, so it's gonna be interesting how this plays out. So yeah, not much from either side to really when it comes to seeing what's out there right now, which is not surprising. But of course, as we're looking into it, we are seeing that Urbane gonna go really hefty on the board and then a double fox. So right now, this is gonna be a very interesting case here. So we're seeing that Murlock's gonna go hefty on the mole, so he's probably gonna get aimed for this attack. You know, he doesn't have much of a window here. As we do see that the fox is going to be supply blocked, both of them anyways. So he's going to sell one of them and just only rely on the one fox. Because right now, there's not much he can really do. The defense is going to be here. And you can imagine that the moles are going to take out most of these MGs. And it's not going to be too... It's going to be a little bit too much. As the defense is finally here. The boar is out. So he could probably clean up the rest of this tier 1. It's a great counter there for Urbane to try and delay it just enough time. But the fox is going to be pesky and try and take down that boar. But the fox got to be careful though, because the box is so close to dying. But it does take out the boar successfully, and the fox goes down as well. So what a good trade. But I would imagine that the trade would work more well for Murlock in this case. But Urbane with the mass tier 1, and now with a fox of his own, that could change pretty quickly here. So it looks like that Urbane might take this game. And he will, so he will tie things up very quickly, one apiece. So already a very interesting start to this match between Urbane and Murlock. So let's go ahead and dive into game number 3 and see who takes the lead. We are guaranteed a game 4 after game number 2. So Urbane changing it up once again, this time as he is the KSR over at the west, while Murlock is doing a mass change as well, as he is going to be over to the east side. Now looking at the composition between both of these players, I will say that it is very interesting here with the Squirrel as the solo attacking tier 1 along with the Pigeon, and Urbane going with the Falcon Snake, kind of go for a poking type of style, and the Badger Owl. So that's going to be interesting to see how he plays around with that one, because that is kind of more of the a common deck that we see. Meanwhile for Murlock, he is going to go with Squall again, but this time a combination between the boar and the owl. And you don't really see that combination too often. And we also see a double defensive units here as well, as we have the mine as well as the balloons. So very interesting compositions for both sides, as we are seeing the Gentleman's 8 between the two of them. And looking at the mills that are available, you can see that there are like mills everywhere. So you can easily see this being a 16 farm type of style. Though we're seeing some cheekiness here in the corner. I would imagine he would sell this here because I don't think the wolves are going to be enough. Yeah, there's not going to be enough time for the squirrels to get here to stop that mole from really attacking. So instead, he's going to go ahead and dive into the snakes and rebuilding the mill here. While Murlock going to go and buy a second mill of his own. I would imagine he'd go ahead and try and go for the Master Tier 1 to counter the snake that could possibly be coming. Because there really isn't a window that Urbane can really go to. Outside of like maybe this corner over here. But I imagine that the cliff abuse will be too much for Urbane to handle in that instance. So I don't think the snakes will really be used until probably a little bit later on. But now we can just go ahead and chill out a little bit. We are past the halfway mark with 2 minutes and 30 minutes left past before the first set of farms gets settled. But we are seeing that the snake is gonna be cheeky here. Like I said, it's gonna be a little bit tougher because of possible cliff abuse. He could go around here. He's trying to be really careful. He is gonna go ahead and take down a couple of pigs, and that snake's gonna get lost though because of the fact, but he's gonna lose at least 3 pigs. And now the owl is gonna come in. It's gonna counter that major loss because a snake tag is a lot more brutal in this patch compared to ones in the past. Because literally one tag can take out a pig pretty easily. So that's a lot of eco lost in that instance. And Murlock's response going for the early owl, I can dig for sure. And of course, Urbane coming in with a badger that will be coming in a little bit late, but I will think that the owl is probably the easiest, well, at least one of the easiest to counter against, outside of maybe the wolf. So when it comes to solo tier 3s. But I would imagine right now, I do think that we did see I believe he saw that. I'm pretty sure he saw the, yep, he did. Just making sure that he did see it. So he is aware of the tier 3 of the owl. But I would imagine that Urbane's gonna feel pretty confident in trying to take it out, because even though the badge is gonna be a little bit behind, just a small bit, it's not gonna be the end of the world too much, especially with how big this map is in general. Because look at the size of this thing. It's definitely not gonna be one of those instances where like being behind like 10-15 seconds behind isn't gonna be that detrimental, because like there's a lot of ground to kind of walk across here. But we are seeing the balloons come into play, and like balloons as a defensive warrant is very deadly, because not only with the cases of it trying to be scanned here, as the mice is going to be coming Grindlin, both balloons are going to be up and ready to go. So it's not going to be, it's going to be really hard for Urbane to try and get past this wall. It's going to be very tough, especially now that with this wall of defense to be coming up, where he can just, Murlock can just go ahead and go into another owl, another tier 3. But now the badger is going to be coming into play here. And I would imagine that Urbane may be going ahead and try and get this mill for taking purposes. But no, he's going to go ahead and scout a little bit and see what's there. He is going to take a third one. Possibly looking for a base race scenario, most likely. As we are seeing a lot of pigeons on the side of Urbane. Really making sure that he gets as many pigeons as he can to stay healthy. And of course, Murlock's going to see that the third mill for Urbane is going to be there. But now here comes the danger, as 3 balloons are about to come out. And now he has to find a way to angle right to not lose that badger, because it is very squishy. A lot of health is being put on that badger, and he is going to be forced to retreat, not doing too much damage wise because of that instance. And now more of the defense if unit's gonna be there. So he knows that the wall is there, but of course he can't stand there for too long or else he's gonna lose his commander. So he's gonna try and ignore. He's not gonna care too much as he is gonna take down a couple of these balloons, but the units are just getting blown out of proportion with these mines. And considering how cheap the mine is as a whole, they can just build them back up once again, but nope. We are seeing the tactics. Urbane does have the hold finally to go ahead and take out this defensive unit, and it looks like that Urbane is going to take the lead here 2-1 as he's able to counter that massive defensive units. So yeah, it really kind of shows that even though you can probably essentially build a huge defensive wall, if an opponent starts like poking very constantly, it could eventually fall, and that seems to be the case here as Urbane does take the lead. So let's go ahead and dive into game number 4. Can Urbane take this within 4, 3-1? Or will we go into a game 5? So Urbane up in the northeast position as KSR once again. Meanwhile, for Murlock, we are seeing him going over the common folk in the west side. So another massive change up between both. We are now not seeing moles whatsoever in this game. With that in mind, we have both going for the solo tier 1 squirrels as the attacking, while pigeons are going to help try and heal things up as the game goes along. Like, we're seeing actually a darn near identical composition outside of the tier 3s as they are both going for the Falcon Skunk combination. Meanwhile, for Murlock, he's only going to go for the Fox as the tier 3, while Urbane going for the Badger Owl composition to wrap his up. But Murlock is going to have the mine as well. So with that in mind, looking at both of the mills, Urbane may have to one base race this because a lot of his options aren't really there. The closest ones is this one, which is like right at the base of Murlock, and this one, which is a good distance away, and it's more of a ninja base than anything else, which I'm pretty sure Murlock has already spotted that he did, so that's not gonna matter too much. Meanwhile, for Murlock, while his is a little bit more difficult, it's a bit more reasonable here. Well, maybe not. I think it's kind of even Steven that they both may have the one base race, but this one's a little bit more easier to acquire compared to Urbane because of the fact that like there's a lot more open area, I would assume, and you can easily climb up to the higher ground compared to Urbane, while it's not much more breathing room for Urbane to really kind of walk to get this one. Meanwhile, higher cliff can easily kind of grab in any kind of instance. It's a much easier one to grab over here, even though it is farther. It's easier to protect in that scenario. Ooh, sorry about that. You know, boy got to sneeze. Snap. But in any case, Urbane is possibly looking to just go ahead and get into a couple of tier 2s. I would imagine that this might be a one base for both of these guys, considering that they're both have already got into the tier 2s and we're already past the halfway mark. I don't necessarily know what they're planning on doing here. We are seeing another Falcon set coming, but I'm pretty sure that was just to go ahead and fake out and see what he actually wants to do, which is put down the Badger. So nice little fake out. So the one base is going to be commencing for Urbane, but I know Murlock's gonna probably see it himself, and he hasn't committed over to a tier 3 as of yet, but I can easily see probably putting that tier 3 back here a little bit just to keep it hidden. But of course Murlock does see the tier 3, so I know that I can imagine that he's actually gonna go ahead and sell a couple of these and start planning for an attack because he knows that the badge is going to come out pretty soon. So he probably wants to go ahead and stop from trying to take this as early as he could, but I don't know if he has enough to really get to it. Urbane doesn't have his supply block, so he's going to try and sell off one of his units, Warrens, to possibly help get this Badger up, and he will do that. So the Badger is going to be coming out pretty soon, and those mines coming into play as well, going into that choke point. It's really putting Urbane in a very tough spot. And right now we are seeing that the battle is going to commence. We're seeing a couple of pigs go down. The Badger still has not able to come out, but that's all that's going to be lost there for Urbane. But as soon as... But he's not going to give up with this attack here. Even though that Murlock doesn't really have a lot of firepower to go ahead and continue to dive in. He's now going to finally dive in, but the Badger's going to come in at any moment, so he has to be really quick to take out at least a couple of pigeons before the Badger comes in, and the Badger is here. The Badger is now going to go ahead and start raiding on their parade, and Murlock's going to have no choice but to retreat. He loses both of his skunks, and that's going to be the end of it. Urbane will win this series 3-1. GG's all around.